My name is Robbie Bragdon, Robbie Foshi Bragdon, and I'm gay. My dad was a pastor. Grew up in the church, very involved in youth leadership, deacon of the church, superintendent of the church. I was raised on a farm, so I rode horses and did equestrian, showed cattle. I think we was taught that we was to love and help your neighbors, but we was never to talk about sexuality or the feelings we had emotionally about sex. I thought we was to get married, have kids, and live happily ever after. Be on some Hallmark movie, sitting on a bench as old people. And around 12 years old is kind of when I kind of figured out not really who I was, but I knew what I was attracted to. I didn't know I was gay then, but I knew, to me, I thought there was something wrong. I thought, the devil's in my life and Satan's taken over. I thought, well, if I would date a woman and push all that out of my body, then it would be no room for it. After high school into college, I had a fiance, and we moved into our first apartment together in Morristown and lived.
Female?
Female, yes, female. We was sitting watching I Love Lucy, which is an old TV show, and she came in from work, and I sat on the couch watching I Love Lucy. And so she came home, said hello, and I said hello, and I remember her going to the bedroom and changing, and I remember coming and sitting beside me on the couch, and I watched this whole thing, I Love Lucy. Well, at the end of the show, I turned to look at her, and she's in her negligee. And I'm like, well, what are you doing that for? Well, it's to try to get my attention, but my attention wasn't there. But growing up as a person in the church, I caught her in a lie. So then automatically I said, okay, our wedding's off, blah, blah. And I think subconsciously it was just an excuse not to be in a marriage. A few months later, I met a school teacher. We dated. We went to Cotton Eye Joe's and danced a lot. And I thought the same thing happened. She made a B in her master's program. And I'm one of those people, if you're sad, I want to, I'll buy you a rose to make you feel better. I just want people to be happy. So, here I do it again. I buy an engagement ring and thinking long engagement. But her grandmother was going to die of cancer, so we sped the wedding up. I'm at the church. My brother's my best man. And before the wedding, I cried uncontrollably forever. I think because at this time I hadn't been with a man. I'd been with women, but I knew that I didn't love her. But my parents, you get married, have kids, and you'll love them. So we got married. Less than a year went by, and we have a kid. She's pregnant, and when they brought him out of the incubator, out of the double doors, I remember something hit me in the chest, almost like a whirlwind, that I knew right then that I loved that person uncontrollably, no matter what. And right then is when I realized I didn't love my wife the way I should. And I was at a restaurant, I was a truck driver. So I was at a restaurant, this guy behind me said, he was talking to another young man, and they were talking about horses. And he had all these questions, and a certain question, I turned around and answered the question for him. His name was Sean. He was an attorney in DC. And he said, I'm doing a horse case abuse study, and I don't want to talk to my peers about it because I don't want to seem ignorant, so can I get your number and call and ask you questions? So he did, and we talked on the phone regularly and had conversations. Stopped in, we had dinner, and he made a pass at me. And that was my first sexual experience. And it was amazing. Now afterwards I felt dirty. I felt I was gonna go straight to hell, but we carried this relationship on for several years. And then he asked me to leave my wife to come to DC and live with him. But I didn't love Sean. I thought it was great, but I couldn't see myself, leaving Greenville and going to DC to be in a gay relationship that I knew nothing about. I'd much rather stay where I'm safe, where I know I'm safe. There were so many things, I dreamed, or I thought of plots to park my truck on the side of the road and walk away and think my family decided to disappear. Because how can you go and tell your family you're gay and love God and know that they're gonna hate you? So this went on for months. I kept plotting how to do this, or how do I fake my death? How can I just stop being Robbie in Greenville and go to living life? So me and my wife, went through a lot of non-sexual things. In 2002, in November, we left my mom's Thanksgiving, and we had this huge argument. And we always argued about either just sex or money, which is, you should have known, because most men want sex and most women don't. But here, my wife is, me, I'm not doing it. So we got this huge fight. So she's leaving on Saturday to go to visit her grandparents in Kentucky and taking my son with him. So I realized then that I'm going to commit suicide. I can't live like this anymore. It's just too hard. So I wrote a letter to my wife, explaining the emotions I'd felt, that I was attracted to a guy, and she knew Sean. I mean, not close, but she had talked to him on the phone, but she didn't have a clue that we was in a gay relationship. So I wrote the letter and put it in the Bible. I sat on the sofa at the house. It's probably around 10:30, and I had a 357. And as being a religion, he was always taught that if you commit suicide, you commit murder, so you're going to go to hell. So I'm telling God I'm sorry. So the minute the barrel touches my temple, as soon as I felt the cold barrel, the phone rang. And being in a small town, my dad being a pastor, I thought, well, I better answer because I don't want anybody to think something's wrong, come to my house. So I answered the phone, and the lady said, "Robbie, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm good." She said, "God said to call you and tell you He loves you." And that's all I need to say. And hung up. So I put the gun away and went straight to Wittenberg United Methodist Church, where I grew up. And I started praying. And so I told God, I said, if you created me to be gay and you're the ultimate being, then you got to give me somebody to love. So on February the 21st of 2003, I was a member of the YMCA. And I owned a gymnastics center, so it was on a Friday night. I was really tired. And I thought, well, I'm just gonna go to the steam room over at the YMCA and relax. And so I go over there, and this one particular guy keeps walking by. And in my mind, I was like, oh man, just leave me alone. I'm not in the mood for this. And then he started talking, wanted to get his kids in gymnastics. And we ended up having a sexual relationship. The thing about it is 6 months later, I was in love with this person, uncontrollably. Never loved anybody like I did this person. And now it is, it's almost 20 years later, here I am still with that person. Love your kids unconditionally, but more than saying I love you, sometimes you have to show them approval. You have to put your arms around a kid and say, I love you, what can I do to help? Even our parents being older, they hear pride events, but they're like, well, I'm not gonna carry a gay flag. Well, why can't you support me? Why, in order to support somebody, if you have a child that is in football, in order to support them, you go to their events. So I'm not asking you to go carry the flag down Main Street, but you wanna go to a gay event with me and just sit there? Not to be dancing and flamboyant, but sometimes it's just comfort, and you can let your guard down and breathe for a minute that you're around your own kind of people. If I could go back and tell my 12-year-old self anything, it would be who you are and love who you love. Don't try to force yourself to be anything other than who you are at any point, whether it's black and white, whether it's gay or straight, be who you are.